My name's Toby Beresford. I'm 50 years old. I started programming computer games when I was 8, so that's 42 years ago. Since then, I've been I am a very old digital native, and have had a career sort of in advertising, gaming, United Nations, IBM, sort of software and services and digital. For the last since I was 8, and recently, in the last 2 years, I had a phone call from a very interesting organisation called Bible Society, who said, what would digital cultural mission look like, Toby? Can you come and help us explore that? So I'm on that exploration.
Now, to talk of intercultural competence and not think about technology, especially with our younger generations. We've not landed, we've not started. So, Toby, what is the Digital Nations map? Why does it matter for intercultural ministry?
So, we're all part of, we're all users of technology, aren't we? We all use technology in some form nowadays. It's hard to avoid it. You all have the most amazing smartphones in your pocket. But each of us is part of different tools and services, and each of those services creates a culture around them. So you get this idea that I'm a YouTuber, or I'm a TikToker, or I'm someone who uses email, or I'm somebody who likes to do gaming, or I use Google. So we all have inside of us a kind of a culture that is shaped by the technologies we use, and those technologies also shape a social culture. And so the idea of digital nations is to say, well, what if we, as the church, started to treat each of those, all the people that inhabit these platforms as digital nations, as cultures worthy of missional investment in and of themselves, with a unique and interesting culture that needs the gospel, that has the need for missionaries, that there are. And this is the idea of the digital nations. And so what I'm going to ask you to do, so I'll just describe the map very quickly. It's just but there are continents, so that we have these broad continents, like video or AI or commerce, for people who like to use computers for commerce, or people who like to listen on audio, people who are on podcasts. We also have people who who really just use their technology for text. And so I want to ask you, which digital nation are you part of? And in order to do this, if you get out your phones, you can actually, if you haven't done it before, there's something called screen time, your settings, and you can go back and it will tell you where you spent your time last week. And so if you go into your settings and look for screen time, and you can see whether you spent 2 hours on Facebook a day, or whether you spend 5 hours on Instagram, or whatever it is. What did you spend your time on? And that helps you to see which digital nation you're most part of. Now, we did this as a kind of an exercise with our board very recently, and we found that actually people grouped off into different digital nations. We were all here together, but actually we were all part of different nations. So does it
matter if it's Android or iPhone?
It doesn't matter if it's Android or iPhone, and your device. Interestingly, the device is not really the thing; it's what you're doing on the device. Yeah.
You don't like how? Okay. Can you?
That's fine.
Toby, can you give practical examples of applying the digital nations concept in ministry? Practical examples.
Yeah. So we've been working with this digital nations idea for a couple of years, and I'm very much in that kind of pioneer space. So I like to try things out in small scale locally, and I've been trying out digital nations in your language, this sort of intercultural mission pilots, pioneer plants, and I've got 3 or 4 here which I'll just show you on the screen, which have been really interesting experiments, and one of them is very interesting because it's still ongoing. The first one, and I'll start with that one, is Minecraft Church. So has anyone heard of Minecraft Church? Yeah. So Minecraft is a digital nation with over 100 million people playing it monthly. So if you're in the Minecraft digital nation, you're probably 8. But if you're in the Minecraft digital nation, you are very entrenched in Minecraft. And so what we started in our local church, very rural setting, not very many people around, is a simple Minecraft church where we took a Bible story and asked them to transform it into the language of Minecraft, and then they would act through. And it's couched, it's an Anglican context, so we have a liturgy and we have a Minecraft prayer and all the rest of it. But we also have this really core, interesting bit where they take the Bible story and build it in Minecraft. And it's been fantastic. These 8-year-olds are recreating stories that we all know from the Bible, but in their cultural language of Minecraft. It's just such a simple tool. So for example, I'll give you some examples. So Potiphar's house. So Potiphar, you know, as Joseph's slave owner, clearly must have had a pyramid in the back garden. Okay, because if you're in Minecraft, you build lots of pyramids. Or Herod's palace. Have you thought about Herod's palace? What would Herod's palace look like in the mind of an 8-year-old Minecraft gamer? It has to have a lava moat. So they built lots of lava moats around Herod's palace and then acted out the story. Now, it's been really interesting to see how this has helped those children to engage with the Bible in their culture. So it's been a really good one. A couple of other ones, because I know that I've also tried it as an after-school coding club, which is quite difficult, but also works. And we saw lots of things. The other one that was really fun was we're using AI, and you know these AIs can generate these amazing images just with a prompt. And so I got we were on mission in a place called Odium, which is a very rural. It's where the veterinary thing was done. It's very rural, kind of very British. So it's very, well, we were talking earlier about white British, so it's very British sort of kind of farming communities. They've all been there in the same spot for 600 years. And we said, well, what would the story of John the Baptist preaching to the people, what would that look like in the cultural context of Odium? And the AI and the people came up with this slightly bearded, tweed beard-wearing individual, and so they then started to illustrate their own Odium Bible, Odium chapter Mark, and it created conversation, and it created a kind of a real sort of, that was bringing it home, these stories in a new way. So I just wanted to those are sort of examples, and I wouldn't necessarily say go and copy any of them, but just the kind of this idea of taking the Bible, trying to transform it into a cultural context, with digital, without, it's really rich, and it's a really great fun thing to do, and I promise you that I can promise you joy as a result of this activity.
Thank you. So that's good. Did you see the AI digital image there? So, Toby, what are the cultural competencies for us to consider?
Yeah, so asked me just to sort of think a little bit about cultural competencies, and I guess there were kind of two. I sort of thought about it in two ways, and this is just the beginning of the thinking, really. So I'm hoping that this can become a kind of just as a starting point. But one of them is that there is a sort of missional competency, which is you have to engage. So we ask ourselves, how do we engage in two-way dialogue with digital nations, whether that's someone in Minecraft, someone in our congregation interested in AI, and then how do we bring platform native, how do we bring things that are specific to those digital nations? So that's the first question. And then of course there's the pastoral question, which we can't ignore. There's an inclusivity question around digital divide, there's a safety around online safeguarding, and also change. This is something that, from a digital theology point of view, we notice is actually the tables are suddenly turned. So, for example, in Minecraft Church, the kids are all the ones that can do it, and their parents are looking over going, how do you do that? So the vulnerable people in our congregation has switched from the kids, or the people who feel vulnerable anyway, switched from the kids to adults. So from a pastoral point of view, these are all some of the challenges that we need to kind of start thinking through and work through. And to leave you with a sort of a question for us to sort of just to be pondering over is really how can we start missionally listening with our congregations by asking which digital nations do you inhabit? Because at the end of what we have to realise is that we are spending an enormous amount of time. In the UK, we spend 5 hours online on average. If you're in the Philippines, Brazil or South Africa, you'd be spending 9 hours online on average. So we are spending an enormous amount of time in these digital nations, and that's shaping our culture. So for us as a church, this is the right time to now engage with those digital nations, and a great place to start, I think, is this idea of missional listening.
When is the report
Oh yes, and we've got a report coming out in June where we've done a big survey of all 27 digital nations. We've found 1,700 digital missionaries across the world who are specific, either organisations or individuals who are working in this area, bringing the Bible particularly to life on digital nations, and actually that's going to be turned into a church explorer pack that individual churches can kind of look at and start to think how can we reach digital nations, not just within our own context, but also more broadly. So that will come out on the 2nd of June.
Thank you.